Hello, I'm Steve. A little about myself. I'm a retired law enforcement officer with 20 years of service. I began my career in the jail, worked the road, and became an investigator. During my career, my training consisted of everything from SWAT to becoming a state certified crime scene technician. I've investigated crimes from thefts to homicides. After retiring and becoming aware of true crime and web sleuths, I started my channel for web sleuths to better understand the perspectives of law enforcement. Not only do we cover true crime, I go out into the field and assist families who have lost loved ones to homicide and their cases are considered cold. Join me as we look and bring attention to these critical cases.
Hello, everyone. I'm glad you're able to join us tonight. I hope everybody's having a great new year. If you're new to the channel, thank you for being here. And while you're in chat, if you have any questions while we do the presentation tonight, absolutely throw it in there and I will try to keep up. Mrs. Steve isn't with me tonight, but one of my mannequins that I've been actively using and creating certain scenarios today that for this presentation. And we'll also be using the mannequin, and anybody of our members or anybody in chat that wants to name this mannequin, absolutely throw some hints and some possibilities out there, and I appreciate it. But be respectful of the mods, families, and each other while you're in chat. And I'll try to keep up with chat as best as I can. But like I said, Mrs. Steve is in Florida this week, and I'm in Georgia. And we absolutely miss her, and for the fact that the show runs so much smoother when she's here with us. But anyway, tonight we're going to be talking about the Kohberger case. And of course, everyone is well aware of the house has been taken down, which opens up a lot of controversy and of which side of it. Does it mean that absolutely it's an open and shut case for the prosecution? There's nothing ever open and shut about any type of case for the fact that Kohberger is considered innocent until proven guilty. And who knows what evidence will be allowed into court and what evidence will be suppressed. And so there's a lot of issues. And with the destruction of that house, it absolutely guarantees certain avenues will be forever closed. You won't be able to get a jury in there to be able to experience and see the lighting, the layout, hear the creaks and groans of a house. Each of us in our own residences, we have that we can tell when a certain door is open or a certain board or step is stepped upon from the creaking and the moaning of how houses settled. But there's a lot of perspectives from that first person advantage points that will no longer be there. And do I think that it was unnecessary? Absolutely. But unfortunately, I have no say in the matter. I wish the house was still there for the fact that we'll never be able, that jury or anyone else in the future will be able to look from outside that residence through those vantage points into the residence or from in the interior to the exterior part of it. And which means a lot of things may be lost to whatever the 3D imaging done by FBI and others. And as that technology is to the point that it can be superior to that firsthand knowledge. I personally don't believe so. But anyway, with our mannequin tonight, I had been doing some testing to give that viewpoint from our witness who says that she saw an individual walking past her door as he exited the residence and was within just a few feet of him and was able to identify certain characteristics. And so this is what I was doing with this individual here today. And also, I even armed him with a weapon, a knife. This knife here is, as you'll see in the presentation, is just about 3/4 of an inch shorter than the K-bar that was used. It has a different type of blade for contrast. It's more of a polished blade versus a black blade that's normally comes with a K-bar. The headgear, I have some black headgear, but I did it with the camouflage for the fact I wanted to show the perspective of what lighting can do. And it depends on the amount of lighting. I did some staging and photography in a lot of different types of lighting today, from interior of a residence to diffused lighting coming through windows, darkened areas, and even took some after sunset this evening, and to get that perspective. But like I said, this is just another part of some of the things that we want to do, and so that we can show, because one of the questions that's been brought up repeatedly is that why didn't the witness mention a knife, and did she see a knife? I don't know. And how hard is it to identify a weapon that is being carried in those low light conditions? And so hopefully this will bring up a little bit different perspective for you to be able to talk about and look at and analyze. Now, this is part one, and we're just doing it from the still images. On Tuesday, I believe I will be going into the audio testing of walking through the house and hearing those creaks and groans, and walking up steps, doing some timed events and things. But anyway, I just, like I said, there's several things that we're going to be looking at as we move forward with this. All right. With that being said, if you have any information about this case regarding Madison, Kaylee, Ethan, or Zana, absolutely make sure law enforcement has that information, for the fact that as this case moves forward and we try to see and watch justice being served for what these families have gone through, and the loss of these innocent children that were in school and just going about their lives and had died from such a terrible, terrible crime. But if you have that information, make sure law enforcement has it. Of course, this is the house of what it was just a few weeks ago. And this is what it mid-destruction looked like. And so, like I said, there's a lot of things that occur that will no longer ever be able to take that vantage point from within that residence or outside the residence, looking at a lot of different things. And and who knows where it will be going as we move forward with this case. Before I get too far behind in chat, let me go through here and see if I got any questions yet. And I don't want to get too far behind. And I appreciate everybody being here. Thank y'all. And yeah, well, let's see if I can get this thing working. Like I said, it's not as easy when Mrs. Steve isn't here. Oh, me. I'm feeling a little bit better, guys. Thank y'all. Yeah. And, this actually is I guess, a unisex mannequin, and it's about 6'2" when you're on his on his leg stand. A pretty good sized fella. And let's see here. Yeah, y'all, like I said, just bear with me. Thank y'all for being here. And let's see here. But some of the images tonight, like I said, we did in different lighting, and see how hard it is to identify. I mean, it's one thing when you're looking at a knife from this perspective, and there's a large screen, you can see it. But it's not the case in some of these photos, as you'll see later on as we move further into the presentation tonight. Oh, let's see here. All right. Okay, I almost caught up there. All right, so now, but anyway, this is to the right is a K-bar knife that is reported that the sheath where the DNA was collected from is a type of knife. As you can see, it has a very dark blade. If I used a similar knife with a dark blade, it would be even more, far more difficult for someone to see it visually in a hand if anyone's wearing any type of dark clothing. It would have to be against a lighted background or a light colored background for it to even be visible, because knives are extremely thin to start with. Depends on what angle you look at them. But the one I was using has a polished blade. And like I said, there's about 3/4 to a ½ inch difference between these two weapons overall. But like I said, I did this with a contrast so that you could see it in some of these photos, whereas if I used a dark blade, you absolutely are not going to be able to see it at all. And this knife here had some colorful red areas on it, which when being held in the hand covers up. And if you're wearing dark gloves or otherwise, such as the mannequin was today, you're not going to see it. But here's a couple of pictures. The one on the left is I was using my camera in a very low lit area, just some ambient light coming in from some windows about 50 feet away. And then I went in and brightened it a little bit. So you can see that in the total darkness part of this image, you can't see anything but a very light silhouette or dark silhouette with very little detail. You can't see anything about the facial. You can't even tell that the contrasting camouflage headgear is really camouflage. Now you can, when I go in there and I run it through a filter and lighten up that image so that you can see that contrast. But in low light conditions, and I did that for a purpose. I wanted to see that if there is certain lighting, amount of lighting, would the ability of an individual be able to distinguish between camouflage or different colored headgear versus the camouflage netting or headgear, because it has all different types of color values from almost white all the way down to dark greens, browns, and blacks. And like I said, I wanted to bring in that contrast so that y'all would have that perspective. And then looking from behind of the individual and then putting a light to the other side. Now, of course, I've got to alert Mrs. Steve whenever she comes home that if she comes down into the basement area and she sees the mannequin, not to destroy him and cause damage to my office area. It wouldn't be good. But this is some of the things that Mrs. Steve has to deal with whenever she walks through the house. So y'all just have to bear with us and have mercy and think about her of some of the things that she encounters as she walks through our residence. And this is the viewpoint from upstairs looking down at the mannequin. And you can see from this perspective, the knife is in the end of in the mannequin's hand. You just can't see it, even with it being of this far lighter metal. Let's see. Well, there we go. Get it over here where you can see it against a dark background. That with certain lighting in certain conditions, you're just not going to see it. And so that may explain that. Could Kohberger had the knife still in his grasp as he walked past the witness? Absolutely. And because I think there's only around 15 steps that we're looking down. And so probably 15, 20 feet away from upstairs to downstairs, looking down this little stairwell. And then put it in another different lighting, some mid-range lighting of how much light would it take for you to be able to see the eyebrows and the eyes of the mannequin. And and I did this consistently throughout this presentation so that you would be able to look at it and get different perspectives from different lighting angles. It's extremely, I learned some things as I was moving the mannequin from one lighted area and adjusting some of the shutter speeds and adjusting light levels, and even going out after sunset and taking some photographs out in a wooded area to see what it would look like of that silhouette of this individual wearing this as, you know, if he was outside the residence, either doing some type of stalking, being a voyeur or whatever, not just on the night in question of the crime, but on other nights also. How visible would he be in that environment? of that tree line. And so, like I said, it was very interesting as I went through the steps. Then, of course, like I said, I just took some other pictures where you could see how um, dis- distinct certain characteristics was. And this is um, with the individual holding a knife and from a certain angle, dead on, with a little bit of backlighting. Like I said, once again, the knife just absolutely disappears. And even from the side, that with the angle of the knife slightly angled away, you have a very thin profile. And so it would be something that might be absolutely missed. When we look at this knife, I mean, it's not a small knife. I mean, we're talking about it's 11 inches, just over 11 inches actually, just a fraction over. But uh, but even that profile and the thickness of that blade, you know, that uh, that when you turn it this way, but just you can turn it and it will just absolutely almost disappear, even right here, from that to that angle there. So. It's amazing how hard that, even knowing that someone is holding a knife, that they may or may not be able to see it. And then these images that when you look at these, the one on the left side of the screen, he doesn't have a knife. The one on the right, he does have the knife, but with that backlighting and then the condition, this was in a well-lit area during midday lighting within the residence. And so I was able to go in and take these pictures and so that we could do a comparison. All right, let me go back, get caught up with chat here. All right. Uh, yes, I do. Thank you for saying sound better. I'm getting a little bit less congested and taking a lot of medicine, and we're getting there. Yeah, it's extremely creepy looking. All right. Gail Hurd, $5 super sticker. Let me see if I can get the blue light on without stabbing myself. Thank y'all. Appreciate your support, Gail. Um, Molly says, True Crime Web, would they ask Dee if her room was dark, what lights were on? Would being adjusted to the darkness have the eyes see it better? Um, and I have some pictures of in low light conditions. Now, if she had her room lights on, of course, how would he be able to walk past her and possibly miss her from a darkened area into a well lit room? Because of the silhouette that you see here, it would have been that type of situation. But our eyes adjust, and everyone has different degrees of night vision. And I don't know if she has to have any type of corrective lenses, but we have to, we don't know anything about her physical as far as being able to see, how long she'd been awake, or what was going on at the moment. I mean, there's a lot of variables about saying that, but we all know what night vision is and how long it takes our eyes to adjust. I would think that more than likely her room area was a little bit darker than the main house. Um, uh, for there's a lot of different reasons, from outside lighting, vehicles, street lights, campus lights, building lights that may create some type of ambient lights within the residence. Yes, please warn Mrs. Steve. She's watching right now from Florida. So, um, but like I said, uh, sometimes I'm carrying them through the halls, and she gets pretty impressed. Yes, the image from the bottom of the stairwell, extremely disturbing, and like all of these, like I said, it's so hard to see. Now, here's a another from the left side, uh, directly looking through the from the left shoulder, full view of left shoulder, not being able to see anything to the right side, and from darkness, which is pretty much what it looked like in my basement area of where I was taking these lights or taking these photos at the base of the steps. And then, of course, up into the upper part of the residence where there was some pretty good lighting coming in through the windows. And but on both of these, there's no way that you would be able to see that he was holding a weapon. Some of the quartering shots, of course, once I turned on the lights in the stage area downstairs, you can see the knife, but it's not really a very large profile, even in this well lit up area. And then, of course, to the right from a quartering shot, that if the witness was there and once he went past, would she have ever had another view of that weapon? And these pictures were made probably less than 8 feet away. And I did that for specifically for certain reasons. And some of the photographs I made were only 5 feet away, so that you would get that really good perspective. And then this is when I went out into the tree line. It was just after sunset. On the left side is what the the camera picked up. To the right side, I went into a filter and lightened it up a little bit. And as and this is what it would be on a any type of dark exterior woodline area that you're not going to see a lot. Once I lighten it up, of course, a little bit, you can see the headgear. But as far as the body against the tree trunk, because just on the other side of this person or this mannequin is a very dark pine tree. We got a lot of pine trees here in Georgia. And so you can see from that perspective that if that body is in line with that trunk of that tree, it just absolutely disappears. And then once again, this is another picture of quartering shot, and you just barely. Now, when you've got enlarge it a little bit and you go in there and pull these images up, you may be able to see a little bit, but just within 20 minutes of sunset, and you put someone in this exact clothing and put them in a darkened area, they simply just disappear into the tree line. And that's the, I enjoyed working at night, and I used the shadows and the darkness. I fully understand the reason that a predator would use this to their advantage. We used it in law enforcement. We used it in any of our, some of our, not only our training, but whenever we would go out and try to get some intel on certain types of residences or gathering intel prior to some type of warrant service, that we would use the cover of darkness for specific reasons. And this is the reason. And would a predator such as this that would commit such a crime, would they use that same environment and the cover of darkness to ensure that they're unseen as they stalk or plan certain activities? Absolutely. And that's what we see here. And like I said, each of these is extremely hard and very difficult, that you can just barely see the outline of these people or this mannequin as I did these outdoor shots. And once again, like I said, it's scary. And this is, of course, the stairwell that we'll be doing our testing on next week, as far as the sounds, the walking, which ones creaks, pops, and I'll be doing sound testing from many different areas across the residence. I personally, Mrs. Steve doesn't really like some of the that I absolutely against oiling door hinges. I like being able to tell what door in my house. I know the sound of every door that opens in my house. I can tell when Mrs. Steve's in any part of the house, which door she's at. And so I'm one of those persons that when I work in that dark environment, I'm just hearing uh, my acute hearing allows me to be able to tell what door is being open, and it's just something that one part of my um, uh, abilities and comfort zones that I want to be able to hear certain things. And so I know when someone's walking in the house, I know the creaks and the moans of my house, that if you step on a certain part of the flooring in my house, I know when it pops, or you're going up a step, I know which step pops. And it's just something I find extremely comforting. Um, but anyway, we'll be doing those sound tests as we move through um, this. But if you have any questions, absolutely throw them in chat. And I'll go to any picture that you want to as we go through this. Um, Becky says, "Is this the kind of mask you had?" I don't know what type of mask it was. Don't know what type of headgear. The witness said it was a black mask. Did it consist of the headgear also? I don't know. I used this for, like I said, to be able to contrast against the dark clothing so that you could see um, what the true value of the lighting was, and if in a certain level of lighting, would you be able to distinguish exactly what type of headgear? Because this is going to be a huge question in the prosecution, and this is going to be a huge thing that's something that will absolutely be lost, that there's no way that a jury is going to be able to visit this exact residence, stand in the exact position that the uh, witness was at, and look through that door frame and where that footprint was recovered, and see how far that distance is. What is that lighting? That is gone forever. Now, they may have 1,000 pictures of it, but that doesn't uh, uh, isn't the same as being there, experiencing it, seeing that vision, that uh, area of exposure, what lighting is drifting in, coming in through different windows. Um, is there certain times when a car is passing by? How much light is allowed into that part of the residence? And this is something that will not be answered in any way now, for the fact that the residence is not there. Now, would they have allowed the jury to go there? Who knows? But we can guarantee they won't be there now. Oh. Someone that has the fear of clowns here. Um, a lot of people fear clowns. Um, yes, I don't know. It could have been. There's a lot of masks out there, but don't know. Um, Molly, true crime. Is it known if the house had those little night lights in the hallways, rooms, the ones that sit in the wall socket, turn on at night? That could reflect off a knife, maybe. It's possible, but there's no mention of what it is. And like I said, it's extremely difficult. I've been working at night, and actually, I was attacked in the middle of the night one time on patrol by an individual with a knife. I survived it. Very fortunate and lucky. That I was able to counter that attack rather quickly. Thank goodness. Yes, in these pictures here, you wouldn't be able to identify individual um, at all. I only I brought it up to the point of where you could start seeing facial features, where you could start seeing the eyes, the eyebrows, and that's as far as I took it. For the fact that I don't know what it would be, and we'll never know from the jury's perspective. Now, did law enforcement go in there and were able to put a light meter and measure that light and take photographs at certain levels to make sure that when they present this in court, that they'll have that photograph that will be 100% accurate? I don't know, but we'll just have to see. Hey Jay, don't turn around, but right behind you. That's one of the things that if you saw something like that in my hallway, you'd be leaving on bloody stuff. Yes, that's my biggest fear is Mrs. Steve uh, coming down here and seeing the mannequin dressed up at here. And just trying to get caught up in here. True crime. Well, he may have been sweaty from what he was wearing. Do you think a wet, pale face was a fleck for? I doubt it. It's possible, but I would doubt it. And this is a good point. Our We have natural defenses that um, when under attack or we're in fear, fight or flight, that uh, our bodies will do certain things. Our hearing gets better, our vision gets better. Time slows down due to that you're processing so much information so quickly. We just don't know at what level she was. She says she was startled and, of course, scared, but it wasn't to the point that she called 911. So is some questions about that. And good point here. Just have to wonder how much light could have been in that house. And whatever law enforcement has collected, ever how they've metered it, and how they will be able to present that in court is going to be critical because the defense, when this witness that saw the individual with the bushy eyebrows and she was able to make that, is going to have to testify to that. If this goes to trial, that will be something that absolutely will have to be addressed and see where it goes. But yeah, this is probably when I stood up there and took this picture of uh, uh, of the mannequin at the base of the steps. It was something that made for nightmares. And I don't know when they got there. I don't know if that night light and the neon lights are on timers, or if they were turned off or turned on, or when he came into the house, the offender, did he turn them on or turn them off? I have no idea. AJ, 199, thank you. Appreciate that. Like I said, let me see if I can get over here without cutting myself. Um, uh, yes, they are very disturbing. Oh. Mrs. Steve has just sent me a text message. She's not pleased with the mannequin. She has told me, "You want to hide your friend before I get home. I can't promise I won't pop a cow." She's already threatening my mannequin with gunfire. Oh me. Oh goodness. Uh, I would like to know if the prosecution even spoke with an expert such as yourself about the importance of seeing it firsthand. They would know this. I mean, what type of prosecutor? I can't believe it. But like I said, they they may have every answer. They've checked every box, and they're so well prepared that they can answer anything. But like I said, I've been there and I've seen surprises. And But I've been out of it for a while, and so maybe the technologies are far more advanced than anything I can imagine. And but with new technologies, they still have to go through and be um, uh, proof test to the courts and be allowed by the courts to be entered into as evidence. And I don't know what hearings they've had and where it's going to go. Um, I don't know if there was porch lights on. Don't know if there's certain lights that are motion detected. motion detected lights that come on as soon as any type of movement outside is noted on some of your, there's a lot of different types of lighting systems from both interior and exterior that are those motion activated types of sensors. I don't know if that's anything in the neighborhood or just from the passing streets. I have no idea. Yeah, they said they had bushy eyebrows. Let's see here. Let me get in here to a side image. Whereas looking dead on and kind of low light, you really wouldn't be able to tell. From the side, um, you can see some of the eyebrow, but this, like I said, this is just painted on. There's nothing about them that's bushy or anything. They're just uh, dead on surface with some contour. So I wasn't able to. Do you think the neon light casts enough light for a good look at the suspect? Notice bushy eyebrow. She'll have to testify and clarify and explain how she was able to see certain facial features, which also leads along the lines that if he was walking past, such as you say here, at neon light, that if his eyes uh, had looked at that light and then he looked away from the light, the rods in the eyes takes a few seconds to readjust, and that may be the thing that allowed her not to be seen by him. That light and her being in a slightly darker environment may be the thing that saved her. Don't know, but that could be one of the answers. They happened on the third top floor, and the second floor where the kitchen area is. That's where two victims up top, two midsection, and in the bedroom areas. Is it possible that I'm here to help you with BK picking up the DoorDash and helping bring the food inside the house? That timing is too close for me. Um, I don't know the DoorDash and what law enforcement said, and but I wouldn't think that the offender would have that ability to go across that use of force thresholds from hyper active to taking the foods. But I think it from the witness's standpoint of hearing the crying and then hearing that voice say, "I'm here to help you." I can see that from some psycho standpoint of that's part of his fantasy, and it's something that he would have um, possibly. Where did he gain that knowledge and that ability to be and say such a thing? Um, it's extremely disturbing statement to be made that if you're that type of offender and you're about to commit such a crime, that you have the mental capacity and ability to try to calm them as you make and close that distance and to keep them and quieten them and calm their nerves. That's something that we use in law enforcement all the time as we deal with people that are um, in certain agitated states. We try to use that calming voice. Yes, there's a lot of different ways that he could have held it. Um, let's see if I got a really good one. This is where him holding it, like I said, in this manner here. This is thumb here, just straight. But yes, he could have held it the other way also, inverted it towards backwards. Could absolutely be, and she could have missed it from that. I'm with Mrs. Steve. Pew pew pew. Adele Hurd gifted one true crime web membership. Thank you. Appreciate that. Thank you for your support. Yes, and like I said, that's going to be a critical point, but it's something that will always be something that they can argue now, unless the defense and what did the prosecution go in there when they went in there? What type of testing did they do? What light levels did they, and what preps did they make with their experts? And now there's no counter to that. That the jurors or anyone else from this point on will ever be able to go back into that residence and make whatever adjustments are necessary. It's a done deal. Whatever's been collected is there. Whatever video has been made, whatever 3D imaging, regardless of what technologies were used, what light meters were used, and how it was um, collected. We just won't know, and there will never be able to go back into that and counter it with any type of new testing. Uh, how long did it take you to dress the dummy? Probably, I don't know, 5 minutes. It comes apart, it comes off the stand, um, and the leg parts are over here on this side, but yeah, it just comes in different, and it has removable arms and all that. And this is something else that there was Christmas Eve, the white lights at the back sliders hanging from the back balcony. Were they on and all that? Don't know. But even the noise of the door sliding will the jury won't be able to experience that. They'll not be able to see and hear the sliding of the door. Did law enforcement get that sliding of the door? Because we know they did processing at that back door. There's images of it, of them processing it with chemicals, and for them to process it and seeing the direction of the recovered evidence, the shoe print, that was the way that he left the residence. But no one would be able to experience it firsthand from the jury. Did law enforcement do that type of testing? And how did they calibrate the system? And how will they be able to replicate it? They may have all of that. I'm hoping they do. If not, there's going to be a lot of lost possibilities out there. Mrs. Steve, that's hilarious. Y'all don't know Mrs. Steve. She's dead serious. She just shakes her head sometimes. I walk in the house, she just shakes her head. Is it reasonable to think victim spoke to him? He answered, "I'm here to help you." Um, Mrs. Steve, once again, sometimes there are no words, meaning that when she shakes her head, there's no words. Is it reasonable to think the victim spoke to him? He answered, "I'm here to help you." Um, like I said, it takes a certain mindset, and it's something that in law enforcement we're trained to do. That as you approach these victims, and you'll see them in every stage of serious injuries to hallucinations, drugs, and even hyped up anger, that you approach them, um, and for to have that mindset, and you're the offender, is absolutely unbelievable, and that is something that you would absolutely wouldn't think that the offender would have those capabilities. But in this case, we have a witness that said that this is what occurred. And so you are dealing with a true psychopath that even has a capability to even speak that series of words. What are we looking at? Just got here. This is simply of where I took a mannequin, dressed up, and since that we've no longer have the house, I wanted to give the perspective of the witness in the house and what has been lost due to the house being um, destroyed, and so we have to look at it, what has been lost and what is the potential for um, of what could happen in the future with this case. That if certain things that we know won't ever happen now, jury won't be there. But I took a series of photographs of a mannequin dressed in all dark with offset head cover and a offset knife. Would he have learned I'm here to help you from his police training? It's very possible that that could have played a role in it. Absolutely. That was really gutsy with so many people in the house. Did Ellie think maybe two did this? You know, originally, I think in some of the early days with the Bolos, they were talking about persons in the vehicle, and was that a consideration? And I believe it would have been because um, you would have to think of that one offender versus four. That's you have to be um, on your game, and athletic is an understatement of an individual that would be able to engage four individuals in that short period of time and accomplish what he accomplished by himself. You wouldn't think that would be the case. And that's one of the things is if all the injuries came from one weapon, and that's law enforcement uses that exact measuring of a crime of how many weapons were involved, how many different types of guns or firearms or knives or hammers, blunt force. I mean, it could be any type of weapon recovered in a house, and some type of weapon of opportunity versus something that was brought by the offender. For the fact that it tells you organized versus disorganized. If they plan and they come and they bring their own weapons or anything restraints, it just tells you a lot about that person's personality. Have you ever been involved in a case where they destroyed the crime scene before the trial? No, not on any of the homicides, um, but now arson cases and things, of course, but not on the homicides. Isn't destroying the house the same as crushing his vehicle or melting down Ethan's golf clubs? Any destruction of any type of evidence pre trial, I'm against. Um, I don't know. Jeff says, I wonder if Ethan came from the bathroom and found Zana on the floor, knocked out by the K bar, not seeing the offender inside the room. May have said, it's okay, I'm going to help you. I don't know. I would think that the roommate would have been able to recognize his voice and would have stated that, but who knows? If I was you, I'd be afraid of the mannequin after I dressed it. I'd probably be afraid of it anyway. Yeah, it's like I said, there's some creepy images. That's probably the creepiest. Even as I took it, I said, "Man, that's unnerving." Yeah, I don't know how far he was through whatever type of cadet thing that they had in the high schools. Some of those things Actually, I had lunch with a guy that runs a cadet program here in Georgia today, and and they were getting ready for some of their um, um, activities and challenges and that they have for these younger cadets that are thinking about going in law enforcement. And they set up scenarios. And whereas you'll take these kids that are 14, 15 years old and they'll put them on traffic stops or domestics and they role play. And so there's a lot of information out there. I just don't know if that was part of the training or what happens in their school program versus not. I just don't know at what level they were. AJ says, is it possible there were different injuries not disclosed by the court and law enforcement? Absolutely. There could have been a lot of different things that we don't know about. I don't know what's true and what's not true. And, you know, it's in this day and age, we see a lot of times where departments do certain things, but um, do I think that the interviews and interrogations should be released pre-trial? And no, I don't. I personally wish that everything would be um, there um, for the potential jurors, and let's not totally try and bring all the evidence and have trial by newspapers and things. You know, and we've seen that happen in the past, and we have to be extremely careful and always realize that everyone's innocent until proven guilty. You sure have creeped us out tonight. Yeah. Um, but like I said, I wanted, and I couldn't figure out any other way of doing this, of being able to take these pictures and be able to look at them in different um, uh, um, measurements of and controls of light to be able to give you those different perspectives of just certain shadows and what and how they can play on the ability to identify and distinguish certain characteristics. And but I thought it was something that we needed to look at, and so I, I did this all day today. Me. They made it. The medical examiner did tell the order of the unalivings, right? Yeah, I can't remember. Now I don't know if they when they were discussing um, uh, who was targeted at what time and how accurate it was at that point. But law enforcement and CSI will be able to look at the evidence collected from within the residence, be able to tell you um, which victim, due to the contamination, cross contamination from one victim, blood trails, and otherwise of where did it start, who was the first victim, who had was there transfer from one victim to another? Did we go from one victim to another victim, then back to the first victim? But it's just absolutely something that CSI would have a inside knowledge, and they'll have to present that in court. This mannequin, when I was taking pictures of him, he I think is like 6'2", if I ain't mistaken. Um, and uh, and so I put my shoes on him and my clothing on him, and was able to get some pretty good images. And I can't remember how tall BK is, but the witness said something about 6 foot. Um, the public, not right now. We're always interested, and there's a lot of speculation of who has been interviewed and what alibis, and because there's other persons that when the crime first occurred and pre-arrest of BK, that there was a lot of people that were looked at, And law enforcement instantly was able to eliminate some suspects or persons of interest and say they're not involved. And there had to be a reason for that. And what was that reason? And more, we now know that some of it would probably play with the DNA profile. All right. But we'll go right through them right quick one more time. And like I said, this is the weapon that I decided to use for my demo. Let me see if I can get without cutting myself once again. And Maria says BK is 6'4", 6'5". And then someone says BK's license says 6 foot. I don't know. I thought he was somewhere around 6 foot. Mr. Secret 6'1", True Crime Wave, you're still welcome to come crime scene up my house. Yeah, they True Unearthed Secrets has their residence has certain types of windows that I would they're very similar to another crime scene that I would like to have access to. All right, but we'll jump through these pictures right quick once again. Like I said, I just used them in different lighting, backgrounds, different distances. The light meters were set at a little bit different settings so that we could get a little bit different perspective of how easy it is and how hard from the indoor scenes to just after nightfall and the after the sun is set, that how quick this same clothing that from daylight to night, how quick you can just dissolve into the background. All right. All righty, guys. Well, I appreciate everybody being here tonight. I want to thank everybody's support, the donations that were made tonight, the memberships and all that. We appreciate it. If you like the video, share it, give it a thumbs up, sub, and make sure that you let everybody know as our channel grows and we move and we have a lot of things that we're going to be doing this year as we go out and as the weather changes and spring gets here. We got a lot of work to do, and we just started looking at some new cases. We're going to be working with some other professionals this year, and I'm looking forward to that. There's a lot of things that are coming up in our future, and it all is due to the participation of this community, our members, and all of the people out there that support this channel in so many ways, and also the ones that support our foundation. Couldn't do it without y'all guys. Absolutely something that we are in awe of, and we thank y'all. And but y'all stay safe out there. And let me get something that we close out on that doesn't scare people all night. But still, if you have information on this case, make sure law enforcement knows it. And y'all have a great night. Stay safe out there, and we'll see you soon, guys. Bye-bye.